beyond excited for this British team and all of the women in the UK, really, that they have finally come to this stage where they've done their first transplant. This is a huge leap forward in infertility treatment for the UK women. And this team has been, preparing for more than a decade to make this procedure as safe as possible for this recipient and the living donor. So I can assure you that the whole world of uterus transplant is beyond thrilled that they.
So the transplant over here happened between two sisters. Is that an important factor in this?
So it really isn't. So uterus transplant can be with organs from both deceased and from living donors. And you might have a little immunology benefit if you have a relative, but that's not a big deal. So for example, my team in Dallas, we have a lot of non-directed donors. So those are living donors, but they don't know, they're not related to their recipients. And that has been quite remarkable as well, because it's great if you have a mother or a sister that's older than you that could give you up your uterus, but some people don't have that. And then to realize that there are thousands of women all over the world that wants to donate their uterus to someone they didn't know, that says a lot about the importance of pregnancy and wanting to pass that experience on to someone else.
It's to help move forward studies into infertility. Does this mean it's another step towards like IVF, that sort of procedure as well?
Yeah, so uterus transplant, it's quite interesting because it encompasses a lot of different procedures. So you have the transplant itself, which is a surgery, but then it's not, you don't have an immediate success. So the success of uterus transplant is actually, the birth of the baby. And to get to that part, you actually include IVF in the whole uterus transplant. So the recipient goes through the surgery, then you wait for the first period to start to see that the uterus is actually working. And then your next challenge is to do the IVF. So you have an embryo that implants and then carry the whole pregnancy up to live birth. So it's a lot of different steps. And IVF, of course, we have been doing since the early 80s and late 70s, and where England was actually the leader of the whole world to start. So we know a lot about IVF, but those putting all these different aspects together, we didn't know much about.
Talk to me about the affordability and the availability of this transplant, because in the UK, there's currently discussion as to whether or not it'll be a part of the NHS.
Yeah, so I think most countries that have started up programs have started, in small scale, and a lot of the funding has been through the institutions or private funding or fundraising from the institutions to get this paid for, and it should probably start like that. It shouldn't be part of the NHS to start with, but the more success you have and the more experience you have, the more women you're going to have in that region of the world that wants to do this procedure. And I really think that this should be considered an infertility treatment. So meaning that if you have other parts of infertility covered, like myoma surgeries or IVF, if that's covered by the NHS, maybe uterus transplant should be too.
One of the other questions that's been thrown around in there is, what does this mean for gender transformation surgery?
Yeah, so there's different aspects of that. So I think if you look at just would it be possible from a medical point of view, I think that it would. And we have never tried it. No one has tried it. There hasn't even been, animal research really in that area. So we don't really know. But if you just look at the different parts of the procedure and could we stimulate the hormones afterwards so this person could get pregnant, I think that would be doable. Then there goes a lot of societal aspects, opinions, ethics, and that's really up to the society in general to decide whether that should be done or not. Because just because you can do something medically, it doesn't mean that you should.
Finally, how big of a milestone is this? Because obviously there's not many people out there that actually know whether or not they're infertile or not. So I can't imagine there's too many donors at the minute for it.
No, but I know, and that's where you guys come in from the media as well to spread this news, because we noticed in the US that when we had the first success over there, the first live birth in 2017 in Dallas, we went out in the media and all of a sudden people knew about this procedure, and we underestimated the power of women and the willingness of women to donate this experience to someone else. So we had thousands of women that called our institution and wanted to give up their uterus. So I think, as soon as people know about this procedure, they have an enormous willpower to make it happen.